and welcome to the Breaking Down Biology Q&A session. Today, I'm joined by the UCSF Scientist Alvin Ha. We're going to discuss his research on developing gene-corrected regulatory T cells as a potential therapy for R2-RA deficiency. It's great to have you here today, Alvin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to talk about some of that exciting work.
Awesome. So before we get into this research itself, let's start with a little background about the research. Our immune system relies on various types of cells working together to function. They protect us from infections, cancer cells, and other threats. And T cells are among most important members. However, these T cells also need regulation and control. If they become too aggressive, they may start attacking our own body. That's when regulatory T cells, or Tregs, come in. They are a specific type of T cells that can act like the internal brakes of the immune system, preventing harmful attacks against ourselves. So, Alvin, your research focuses on a condition called R2-RA deficiency, where the regulatory T cells do not work properly. So before getting to the therapy itself, could you introduce a little bit about this condition and how it affects the immune system?
Yeah, definitely. You kind of explained it well. The Tregs in our body are a very important cell type. The very reason we just won a Nobel Prize for their role in maintaining the immune system and balancing the good stuff, which is inflammation in the context of infections, cancer, etc., but also making sure that we don't end up with things like autoimmune diseases where the immune system isn't properly regulated, as you mentioned. So yeah, IL-2RA deficiency is a very rare condition. It falls under a very broad class of diseases where essentially what happens is your regulatory T cells, the Tregs, don't do their job properly. And that can happen through a number of different ways, but essentially what it all kind of breaks down to is that your Tregs aren't able to control how your other T cells are responding to things that they see in your body. What that ends up kind of manifesting as in a patient, like the one we're trying to do with this therapy, is a lot of autoimmune conditions. So things like type 1 diabetes or other conditions where, your T cells are attacking your other immune cells, your blood cells. And that can cause a whole host of really bad side effects that in some cases can be fatal, but at the very least requires a lot of clinical management that really just severely affects. And for this patient and many others with similar kind of Treg-based disorders, requires just a lot of clinical management and also affects their quality of life.
Thank you for the thorough introduction. So just as you mentioned, R2-RA deficiency is very rare, but it does tell us a lot about how the immune system keeps itself under control. For you, what makes this condition especially interesting to study and develop a treatment for?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the case of the study that we're talking about, we're really kind of just focusing on one patient who has a very specific mutation that leads to their Tregs being not functional. But this is not a unique kind of condition. Many different mutations can cause a similar effect to a varying degree. What's really interesting about studying these diseases, which we broadly classify as inborn errors of immunity, essentially it's a very fancy way of just saying it's a mutation that you're born with that leads to some sort of immune deficiency. In this case, we're talking about Tregs. Studying these mutations, one, it's important because there's not a very good option for a curative treatment. We have a lot of options for treating the symptoms like immunosuppressive drugs, but those aren't long-term solutions. Those are just treating the symptom, not the cause. There are cures like bone marrow transplants, right? Where you essentially replace your entire immune system with a new one. While that's curative, there's a lot of risk involved with that. You're at really high risk of even a simple cold becoming fatal. So what's really interesting about studying diseases like this and utilizing technology that we have now, things like CRISPR, to essentially edit these mutations and fix them as an alternative, curative, and safe therapy is actually really exciting. More broadly, we learn a lot about just the biology of our immune system. A lot of times when we study the immune system in a lab, we use cells from people who are healthy. A lot of times we don't really study this in the context of a person who has a disease. One, because it's hard to get access to these cells, but it does tell us a lot about how these people with these kind of immune deficiencies, how their immune system behaves differently from a healthy individual. From a biological context, that's actually really important as well, to understand how a mutation that affects one cell type broadly affects what we think of these cells normally.
Absolutely. I can definitely see the importance of studying these types of diseases and developing a new type of therapy for them. So
Mhm.
I think it's very exciting that in your research you successfully created the regulatory T cells whose genes have been corrected and can actually function normally like healthy Tregs in lab settings. At the
Mhm.
same time, you also mentioned that this type of therapy has not been tested in actual patients. So, from your perspective, what might be some remaining gaps or steps before we can test the therapy in patients?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a complicated answer because there's a lot of different things that need to be addressed. One is mentioned that the biology of patients suffering from this kind of disorder is very different from what we might expect. When we develop cell therapies and gene therapies like this one, the dosing that we reinfuse back into the patient is very important. In the basic research lab, like the labs I work in now, we're able to expand these Tregs to a point where we start from 10 million and we'll get over 100 million, right? That's not the case with this patient, for example, where we'll start with a very low number and end up with a very low number as well. We're not exactly sure what the exact dose is. We have some evidence from mouse studies of what might be a good number, but there's a lot of technical limitations with current processes that really affect how many cells that we can get out. While it's still unknown how many cells we need to reinfuse to get a therapeutic benefit, that's still something that needs to be addressed. More practically, developing these therapies isn't cheap. We're developing this for a single patient with this one specific mutation. That costs a lot of money and a lot of time. There's a whole complex debate about regulation and reagent sourcing that makes it hard to scale this up more broadly. Although we haven't been able to dose them yet, it's a lot more technical optimization that we need to do. So we're excited about that aspect. As we think more about genetic medicine, broadly cell therapies, this question of timing and cost becomes really important as well. And so people with rare diseases like this one, there needs to be discussion about how we can make these therapies faster. We have the technology to do it very easily, but there's a whole host of challenges that come with adapting what we do in the bench and translating to the bedside. Some of that has to do with the patient disease in itself, but a lot of it also has to do with things like cost, regulations, et cetera. Those are two main challenges that come with these kind of therapies. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement in the field now about doing things like taking the patient's cells out and correcting them and then putting them back in. There's a lot of promise, but still a lot of work to be done in terms of making these kind of therapies more accessible.
Thank you. I can see the challenges, but I also see like the promise inside. So I really hope that this work can continue to progress towards clinical testing and maybe one day an established treatment that can help patients with either L2RA deficiency or some other similar genetic immune disorders. And it may just provide those patients with more hope and more options.
Yeah, definitely. I think you made a really great point earlier about a lot of these conditions, while they are different mutations, kind of maybe exist in the same region of your genome, right? So thinking forward, rather than trying to correct a single mutation, can we just have a more broad therapy where we correct the entire genome? So people with mutations in that gene can all take the same therapy versus us having to go back and restart for a single mutation. Kind of thinking about things more in a platform based approach, I think is one kind of really cool direction that we can start looking more into to make these therapies a little more accessible.
Absolutely. I really look forward to such exciting things happening in the research fields.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is a great place to end. Thank Alvin again for taking the time to speak with us today. To read the article or learn more information, please check our website, breakingdownbiology.com. See you next time.